Welcome back to In Your Neighborhood. Our next story takes us to Milton, where one man's hobby has helped to revitalize this historic town. Reverend Robert Walker, a Milton native, had a passion for O-gauge model trains. In his retirement, he operated Grandpa Choo Choo's train shop and founded the Loose Ties Train Club. He paid homage to his hometown in the layout he created in his home, which featured many highlights of 1950s era Milton. In 2006, he decided he wanted to donate his beloved train collection to the Milton community.
He was becoming ill, and he wanted to see his legacy live on. And he approached the Milton Historical Society about where could he set this up in the Milton area.
Unfortunately, there was not enough room in Cameron House for Reverend Walker's extensive layout. Nearly a year later, a chance conversation at the Moose Family Center greased the wheels for establishing a permanent home for Reverend Walker's gift.
Some of the fellows overheard the conversation that I was telling someone about this train layout. And it was the leadership of the Moose fellows came forward and said, hey, we have some empty space here, maybe you'd be interested in that. So we came up and we looked at this third floor space and it was perfect.
George Vinios got a few interested folks together, and that's when the proverbial train left the station.
It took off like wildfire, and I made a few contacts. I contacted Ray Leeser, I contacted my brother Tony Vinios, Ray Rue, some of the fellows that are on the time committee, and Tony Snyder from the Moose. We went to Reverend Walker's house, took a look at it, and we made a decision that night, and we said, okay, we're going to do this.
Within 2 months, they had dismantled Reverend Walker's layout and begun reassembling it in its new home on the third floor of the Moose Family Center. In order for the Model Train Museum to benefit the community, this original group knew they needed to get organized.
We decided that we wanted to create a structured committee under the time umbrella, of course. This is the Milton Historical Society really, although they were first approached, they came to the Time organization and said, hey, Time, maybe this is more appropriate to be under Main Street program.
The Main Street program from the National Trust for Historic Preservation was designed to transform the way communities think about the revitalization and management of their downtowns and neighborhood commercial districts. Deb Owens, Milton's Main Street manager, talked about the program as it relates to Milton.
It is a program to help revitalize towns. There's a 4-point approach, and it seems to work very well. It's working great in Milton. And 5 years ago, a group of interested citizens decided to apply for the Main Street designation. It takes a lot of paperwork. You have to jump through a lot of hoops. You have to do a lot of fundraising. The Main Street manager has to go through pretty intensive training. And so we are now in our 5th year of Main Street program, and we're starting to see results here in Milton.
The concept of a model train museum in Milton dovetailed perfectly with the Main Street program.
It ties in beautifully with the objectives of the Main Street program. We want to have our town a unique place where people want to come and visit, a designated place to come, and we're the only model train museum around. Also, it really ties in with our roots. Milton has always been very connected with trains. At one point, Milton had more passenger trains coming through the town than any other town per capita in the state. So our borough offices are located in train buildings. So it's true to our history. And one of our big things is to bring people to the downtown area, and in December we get thousands of people coming to visit the train museum.
In order to get the museum off the ground, the committee started a capital campaign.
Ray Leeser was the fundraising chairman. We raised, I think our goal was $25,000. We ended up raising $30,000. The community is very, very generous in Milton. We have found with any time that the Time organization has gone out for fundraising, projects, whether it be the walking tour, the Veterans Memorial, the Miltonian building, now we add the trains, and the response was overwhelming.
Grants from the Pennsylvania Department of Community and Economic Development, as well as the Degenstein Foundation, have also helped the museum to flourish. The Milton Model Train Museum opened its doors for an open house at Christmas in 2008 with just a couple of trains and a few houses in the layout.
We felt it was important to do an open house because we wanted to be able to have the public come and see the progress of its construction. Well, that was nearly 4 years ago, and we're still working on it. Okay, so it's always it's in progress at all times.
The men who build, maintain, and upgrade the museum still meet twice a week in the evenings to work on the layout. Each has their own area of interest, from constructing buildings for the layout to maintaining cars and engines, or in the case of Barry Mabus, installing more than 300 little tiny people in passenger cars and vehicles. What they all have in common is a passion for model railroading.
We've got a group of a dozen or so volunteers that are very, very dedicated to this project, and they, it's their hobby, but at the same time, you see the quality workmanship up there, and it comes from the heart. These fellows really want to entertain the public, especially the kids. There's nothing greater than when these kids come in with smiling faces and they see these trains. That's real payback.
Tony Vinios designed the installation of a new turntable purchased by the museum for the layout, and he was nice enough to give us a demonstration.
We had one of our fellows, Mike Warren. He's retired police chief of Milton. He's, O-gauge trains has been his hobby all his life. And he scratch built some buildings that were rather incredible. He built the Milton Moose building, he built the Alco restaurant, he built numerous homes, he built Leeser's shoe store downtown, pretty incredible. There's, the Broadway News building, and there's many others, all right? And so that's a big part of some of the new things here. We added in-car cameras, these little tiny cameras that are mounted inside the trains, and then they shoot up, they broadcast up on flat screen TVs.
Other area model railroaders have contributed to the layout. The ACF and Chef Boyardee plants were built by Gary Baylor. At the heart of it all, though, are Reverend Walker's buildings and trains. Up on the highest level of the layout is a street scene hand-built by Reverend Walker. All the houses are lit by wires from the electrical poles in the scene. This was how he constructed it, and the museum chose to keep it that way. On the lower part of the layout is Milltown, or Milton, as it appeared in the 1950s. One building worth noting from Reverend Walker's collection is the church, located on Front Street. In order to make the stained glass windows, Reverend Walker took a picture of the church's window and turned it into a slide. That slide makes the stained glass window. It was such an ingenious idea that it was written up in a model railroading magazine in 2002. Another Walker creation is the system that moves the cars along the street. Yes, that's a bicycle chain. The interactive scenes are very popular, particularly with kids. You can push a button to activate a signalman, or a fireman, or a baseball pitcher, for example. Buttons are posted all around the layout, more than 20 in all. It's a lot of fun to pick out the historic buildings of Milton, like the Capitol Theater and the Fifth Ward Hose Company building. The amount of detail in the layout is amazing. You could spend hours here and not notice everything. For example, this is the Milton Island. I visited the museum 3 times and didn't realize that until someone pointed it out. And here's another fun one.
We have adult scenes in here. If you look past the feed mill, there's a greenhouse.
Yeah.
Then the brick 3-story.
Yeah.
Top floor rear window.
They can even run a nighttime version of the layout. Keeping the electrical system running with a multitude of transformers and miles of wire is quite a job. A layout of this complexity, running 5 trains at a time, along with the many interactive scenes, requires a lot of technical know-how. Miles Wilson and other volunteers like John Bauer, Bob Semick, Ron Johnson, and Ray Rue take great pride in sharing their love of model railroading with the public. Of course, none of this would be possible without the generous support of the Moose Family Center.
Could not be done without the Moose. I mean, this is I think it's a 4,000 square foot facility, which they're donating, and that's an incredible donation to the community.
It's obvious that the Model Train Museum has enhanced Milton's downtown, as its founders hoped it would.
This has been a major draw for our downtown.
But it also honors Reverend Walker's generous gift in a way that he probably never imagined.
And I think he would be so happy to see what this has become, because it's just bigger and better, and I'm sure it fulfills his best dreams of what it could become.
The Milton Model Train Museum is ready for the holiday season. It is open on Saturdays and Sundays starting November 26th, with the exception of Christmas Day, from noon until 5. Make your plans now to see this one-of-a-kind exhibit. That does it for this episode of In Your Neighborhood. When you're on the web next time, be sure to check out our Facebook page and our YouTube channel. I'm your host, Jennifer Wakeman. Thanks for watching.